Hey, what's up everybody? This is Ron from Stepwise Media, and what we're going to do today is we're going to set up a build server for MIT's App Inventor service. And what we're going to do is we're going to use some existing resources that are already out there on the internet. We're going to use Amazon's EC2 service, their Elastic Cloud Computing service, to host our build server. For those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, this tutorial may not be for you, but basically MIT has recently taken over a Google project, which was Google's App Inventor service for Android, and they're setting up, basically making this open source so that pretty much anybody and their brother can run ther own service. You can build applications. You can use it for computer science classes. A lot of good things coming out of App Inventor. It's pretty much a graphically oriented way to create apps for the Android platform. Now, what we did was we went to the website here. We're at appinventoredu.mit.edu, and what we're going to do is we're going to click this link that says "Run Your Own App Inventor Service." We're going to click that link and read the type here. This goes back to November of last year. Starting today, the Center for Mobile Learning is distributing Java archive files. Okay, now this is the distribution that we're going to need, and we're also going to need the docs, because there's some important things in the docs that we're going to need to be looking at over the next few minutes. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to download the package here. Okay, so the zip file on this page contains yada yada yada, and this build is from a couple of weeks ago, the January 20 build. We're going to download this, and it's a zip file, and we're going to save it. Now, more than likely, this is going to go in my downloads folder. It's 56.5 megs. Basically, it contains two packages. One package is going to be for the build server, and the other package is going to be for your App Inventor service that you would host with Google. Now, we're working on one half of this. We're working on the build server half. If you haven't already gone and installed your actual running instance with Google App Engine, then that would be for another tutorial. What we're going to be concentrating on is basically just the build server portion of it, how to get this build server up and running, because the build server, what it does is it communicates with your instance of App Engine to package any application that you may have created using App Inventor. And in order to do that, we need to set up some port configurations. We need to set up Java. We need to do quite a few things before we can get our App Engine, App Inventor service to communicate with our build server. So we're going to download this file, and while we're at it, we're going to download a couple of other pieces of software. And I've already done this, so I'm just going to show you real quick. You're going to Google Putty, and Putty is basically an SSH client for Windows or for other platforms, but I'm using Windows 7, and I need Putty to communicate with my build server in the short term. So here's a download Putty. If you go down to the bottom of the screen, you're going to see where it says download Putty. We're going to click that link. And not only are we going to download, I'm using a 64-bit install of Windows, but I'm going to be using the x86 version. It should not make a difference. Putty is a self-encapsulated executable file, which means it's going to run from wherever you put it. So we're going to download Putty, and we're also going to need to download Pageant, and we're also going to need to download Putty Gen. So those three pieces of software, and if you look at my desktop, I've already installed Putty, Pageant, and Putty Gen. And once you download these files, you throw them on your desktop, you can run them from anywhere. It's going to ask you for permission. I can always check this, whatever. Boom. As soon as I hit run, though, there's Putty. It'll run from wherever you stick it. So if you want to run it from your downloads folder, if you want to run it from your desktop, you're good to go wherever. So we're back here. Now we're going to need to go to Amazon EC2, and if you don't have an account with Amazon, you're going to have to set one up. They will ask you for a credit card number, and they're going to pre-authorize your credit card for $1 or $2 just to make sure that everything's valid. But just like it says here, Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud delivers scalable, pay-as-you-go compute capacity in the cloud. And the other thing that's neat is that there's a tier system where basically they say, hey, if you haven't used this much, it's free. And what we're going to do is we're going to fly under the radar, and we're going to make sure that this thing is absolutely free, other than, having the credit card on file, other than the $1 or $2 they're going to charge us to pre-authorize that card. We're going to set up what's called a micro tier service, and initially, for the first year, as far as what Amazon has said, these things are going to be free. You have to bear with me because I'm smoking and drinking coffee at the same time. So we're going to go to My Account Console, and if you haven't set up an account, you're going to set up an account. Okay, and right here, sign up now. Now I already have an account set up, so I'm going to sign in using our secure server. If you don't have an account, you're going to walk through the steps to set up Amazon EC2. And it says you already have access to Amazon Web Services. I'm going to go to, click this link here that says Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud. And this should bring up my management console. If it doesn't, I'm just going to come up to this window here and click Management Console, because this is going to give me access to all my Amazon services right from one running window. So we have Elastic Beanstalk S3. Now S3 is also a neat little thing from Amazon. Basically allows you to set up buckets, which are virtual file folders, and you place files into those buckets. You can call them from anywhere. So if you have a movie file, if you have sound files, you can store them in your bucket. You'll see I've got an APK file here stored. I've got some audio files. I've got some things here stored. I'm going to go to EC2. And the whole point of what we're doing here is that most people don't have access to racks of servers that they can just fire up whenever they need to. For instance, if you need a server that has to run Linux, and you don't have a Linux server and you haven't configured it, basically what Amazon EC2 is going to do is going to give us access to all different types of server configurations. Now these are virtual server instances that you run, basically like pushing the power button on a virtual computer somewhere in the cloud. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to Instances, right over here. And you're going to see that I already have an instance running. This is one that I set up a few weeks ago for App Inventor. I already have this instance running, and what we're going to do is I'm going to shut this down real quick. No, I don't think I want to do that quite yet. So here's my App Inventor instance, and once it's set up, it's going to give me the public DNS. It's going to give me a private DNS, and if I want to, I can actually configure a domain, a private IP address, to point to this server. Basically just like setting up any kind of a server, whether it's with my Apache or MySQL or Apache, pretty much anything. So we're going to go to the dashboard again. We're going to click Launch Instance. And now what we're going to do is we're going to select a 32-bit Amazon Linux service. And we're going to create a new key pair. So here's what we have. We're in Quick Launch. We're going to name our instance. Let's see, App Inventor Server. So we named our instance App Inventor Server. We're going to create a new key pair. and we're going to use Amazon's 32-bit Linux installation. Okay, now create a new key pair. We're going to click download, because in order to, well, we're going to give it a name here. Let's see, the name is going to be My New Key. We're going to click download. And it's going to give us a PEM file, which is Amazon's version of a key file that allows you to communicate with their server or with your server instance. You know, with some servers you have a username and a password. In this instance, this key file allows you to communicate with your instance of the server without having to log in with a username and password, although you will have a username. This is basically the password. So we're going to save this file, and this will probably go to my downloads again. So we're going to go over to downloads, and we're going to throw this on the desktop. And there's my key file, and there's our instance of App Inventor. We're going to slide all these over on the desktop. So now our desktop is getting pretty full. And we're going to go back to our window here. So we've downloaded our key. We've selected 32-bit Amazon Linux. And the reason I'm doing 32-bit is because 32-bit tends to communicate with the App Inventor service a little bit easier than 64-bit. There are some different configurations that you need to think about if you're running a 64-bit server. And that's in the MIT docs. Amazon Linux 32-bit, continue. Okay, and here we go, Amazon Linux, EC2 AMI tools, App Inventor server, and we're just going to click launch. Okay. Now it's going to give us a little message. Our new instance is now launching, and we're going to close this out. Now if we go back to our dashboard, we go back to our instances, you're going to see where this new instance, basically what we did was, from wherever you are for wherever I am, I basically fired up a new server, a new 32-bit Linux server. I pushed the power button and it's firing up. Now you have to remember that this has Linux only. It doesn't have Java, it doesn't have Apache, it doesn't have MySQL. Basically what we did was we fired up a computer that just has a Linux operating system from wherever the heck it is, somewhere in the cloud. So now if we hit refresh, hit refresh up here, it's going to show us that our new instance is running. And if we scroll down here, we're going to see that there it is. We have a public DNS, we have a private DNS, we have a private IP address, if we want to configure that. But for right now, we're going to leave everything just the way it is. Basically, what we did was we powered up our App Inventor server. Now, this is where things get a little tricky. What we're going to have to do is connect to that server. And first things first, what we're going to use is, well, we got to go back here. And we're going to fire up Putty. So double click on Putty, click run, and here is our Putty window. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to have to type in the host name. And if we go back to our Amazon EC2 window, we're going to grab the public DNS, and we're going to copy that, and we're going to paste it right in there. So there is our host name. The other thing that we're going to need to do is we're going to need to use our key to connect with Amazon EC2. Now the problem is that the Putty key version is different than the Amazon EC2 key version. We downloaded a PEM key, but we're going to need to convert that into what Putty recognizes as a key. So we're going to use Putty Gen. Double click on Putty Gen, click Run, and we're going to go to File, Load Private Key. And the private key, if you remember, was on our desktop, My New Key. So we're going to go down to All Files. And we're going to click on this My New Key. We're going to open that up. And we're also going to make sure that on this type of key to generate, we're going to make sure that we have SSH1. Okay. And what we're going to do is we've got all this done. Here's our key, and we're going to click Save Private Key. And it's throwing me an error saying that it's got no passphrase. We don't need a passphrase right now. So we're going to save this, and we're going to call this My Putty Key, PPK. Now what we did was we just basically converted our Amazon key to our Putty key. Now we're back in Putty, and we have our host name up here. We have our port, which is 22. We're going to go to SSH connection, and where it says auth, down here, private key file for authentication, we're going to click Browse, and we're going to load my Putty key right there. And the other thing that we're going to need to do is we're going to need to tell Amazon who is logging in. And this is where things get a little bit weird, because Amazon doesn't really put this in their docs too awfully great. Connection data. Now under connection and data, what we're going to do is we're going to have to type in EC2 -user. Now, if you're used to WAMP servers, you know the username is always root. If you're used to Ubuntu, you know, you log in with Ubuntu. With Amazon EC2 Linux, the auto login username is EC2 user, and that's very confusing. And this took quite a while to figure out because it's not really notated in the docs very well. So we've got our server, got our key loaded in. We're going to click Open, and hopefully, if everything goes well, we're going to have an instance of this running, and it's going to log into Amazon's server for us once we have get this little error. It's not cached in the registry. You have no guarantee. Yada yada yada. Hit cancel. We're going to click yes, and boom, we're logged in. So there we go. We've basically just set up our instance of an Amazon server using a 32-bit Linux image. We've downloaded Putty and Putty Gen to convert our key, and we've logged in to our server instance as EC2 user. Now you have to remember that this computer, this virtual server, has only Linux on it. There's nothing else. There's no Java. There's no Java platform. There's no Java runtime. There's nothing. There's no Apache, no MySQL. It's basically just a computer running Linux. Now we're going to need to get those operating systems, those plugins, on our server somehow. And the easiest way to do that is to use FileZilla. And this is where using Pageant comes into play. We're going to minimize this for right now, and we're going to load up Pageant. And what Pageant is a tray icon basically to hold your key information. So we're going to fire up Pageant, and we're going to add a key. And we're going to add my Putty key PPK, and we're just going to close it out, and it's going to reside in our system tray. And then we're going to fire up FileZilla. Now here we are in a brand new installation of FileZilla. I have nothing in my Quick Connects. What I am going to do though is I'm going to paste, if you remember we still should have that in our clipboard, we're going to paste the public DNS of our Amazon server. There it is. Our username was EC2 user, just as before. Password, obviously we have our key loaded in Pageant, and Pageant and FileZilla are going to communicate with each other to make sure that FileZilla knows that your key is stored. And that's what Pageant does. It's basically a key holder while you're running other software. Port's going to be 22, and we're just going to hit Quick Connect. And it's going to give us a little dialog window saying that we're connecting. Hopefully, if everything is running well, if Pageant is connecting okay, and there we are. Now we're in a graphical environment, and we can see here is our Amazon server right here. And basically what we did was we just used FileZilla and Pageant and Putty on a Windows operating system to connect to our Amazon EC2 server. Now from here what we can do, let's say you wanted to install Windows Apache MySQL PHP, you could install LAMP for Linux, LAMP, which would be the Linux configuration. You can install LAMP. You can install JRE with Java runtime, Java. So basically, what we're going to do now is we're going to install Java on this Linux build, and then we're going to instantiate it. So here we are. This is our virtual server here, our remote site. This is our local desktop computer. And then these are our file folders from Amazon down here. So this is basically, when you set up that build, this is everything right out of the box that gets installed on your Amazon server. Pretty darn neat.